channel into another reading vlog. In this vlog I'll be reading some of my most anticipated releases of the year that have just come out in the past month or so. I'm actually working some overtime this week, but I have today off, which is Monday, and I also have Thursday, Friday and Sunday off as well. So I'll try and read as much as I can in those days. I've actually been really behind on my reading this month. I have only read 4 books in September and 2 of them were rereads. But do you know what, it's fine, I've had a busy month, so hopefully I can pick up the reading now. But my current read is actually Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross, and this is a September release that I was very much anticipating. And the 2 rereads I read this month were Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows, which are this is a prequel to that series, but it's not direct, like it doesn't really follow much of the same characters. It's set like hundreds of years before. But I am actually 135 pages into it, and that is the start of part 2. I think there's 4 or 5 parts, and I've been reading this book for 2 weeks. To be fair, the first 70 pages I read, that took 2 weeks, and then the 60-ish pages after that I read in one night the other night, so I'm definitely speeding up. This is an adult fantasy standalone that is a prequel to Divine Rivals, and it follows a goddess called Matilda, and there's 2 types of gods in this world. There's the Skywards and the Underlings, and she is actually a bit of both. Her dad is a Skyward and her mum is an Underling, but her dad doesn't know about her existence, and she's raised by her mum in the Underling realm. And for years she's been appearing in this boy called Vincent's dreams, and the reason she knows this is because one of the underling goddesses is Alva, who is like the goddess of nightmares. So she basically has a collection of everyone in the world's dreams, and she noticed that Matilda was appearing in Vincent's dreams, and she gave Matilda a scroll of basically all his dreams, and that's how Matilda knew that she was appearing in them. And some events happen that makes Matilda have to flee from the Underling realm and seek safety up in the Skyward realm, and she does accidentally run into Vincent in real life while she's on her way up there. And yeah, that is kind of where I've got to so far. It definitely was a slow start, but I am excited now. I feel like I'm in it now, even though it took me 2 weeks to read the first 100 pages, but it's fine. Hopefully I can get through a decent chunk of this today, because I have nothing to do today except from film a few videos. So yeah, hopefully I can get a decent amount of the way through this. Before I get to reading, I'm actually going to make myself some lunch because it's 3 p.m. now. And I haven't eaten lunch yet, so I actually don't know what we have. Normally I just go out and buy lunch, either from a supermarket or a coffee shop or something, but I've just been really sick of leaving the house for an hour in the middle of the day to get food. I feel like that's such a time waster when I want to be reading, so I'm just gonna scavenge the cupboards and see what I can find. I also recently bought instant coffee, which I've never made at home before, but I was recently at a friend's house down in England, and they only had instant coffee, and they were making me 2 cups of coffee a day, and I was actually really liking it, even with no milk or sugar. So I kind of wanted to get this to try it. It smells quite strong though, so I think I'm going to make some coffee with my lunch, and then hopefully I can get to reading. I really want to read in the afternoon because I've had an issue in the past year or so where I've just stopped being able to read during the day. I don't know why, because even if I have a free day, there's something wrong to me about reading at 4 p.m. I don't know what it is, but in my head I have this mental block where it's I feel like I should be doing something a bit more productive than just reading, but then I can't think of what productive thing to do and end up just sitting on my phone instead, which is even worse than reading, if that makes sense. So I really need to just start reading during the day when I have free time, because I end up getting to 11 p.m. and I haven't read yet, and now I'm finally in the mood to read, but it's nearly midnight and I usually stop reading at midnight, so I only have an hour to read, and then that just puts me off reading at all, because I was like, what's the point of only reading for an hour, because I'll barely get into the book and then I just don't read. That's why I've only read 4 books this month on top of being busy. So I'm going to make my lunch, eat it, and then try and at least get to page 200. I feel like that'll be a good chunk of the way through the book. That'll be just over a third of the way through. It's 500-ish pages. So I feel like if I get to page 200 before tonight, that's a decent like motivation to read more later on tonight. I also am going to watch a bit of a TV show with my mum. We've been like obsessed with watching Andor recently, and my mum knows nothing about Star Wars, but I feel like you don't really need to know anything about it to watch Andor, so I've been like forcing her to watch it, and she's agreed to watch at least one episode tonight. So I better get reading it in the afternoon in case we end up just binging Andor tonight and not reading. So I finally finished Wild Reverence, and yeah, this took me 3 weeks to read, which was really unexpected because it was one of my most anticipated releases of the year. So that is a little bit of a disappointment. I think it was half me, like I just wasn't in the mood, and also I did go on holiday for like 5 days in those 3 weeks. So, and I didn't read at all while I was away, so that definitely added to it. Um, but also, I think half of it was just the book being really quite slow, but also maybe because how much I built it up in my head. I tried really hard not to compare this to Divine Rivals because even though it is a prequel to that series, it is its own separate thing as well, and I wanted to view it as its own separate thing because Divine Rivals is one of my favourite books of all time. So if this tried to live up to it, like it wouldn't succeed. So I tried to view it as its own thing, and I definitely did love this book. I'm going to give it, I think, 4.25. I was really interested in the world mainly, and also the side characters. There's so many like gods and goddess like side characters, and I thought they were like the highlight of this book, to be honest. And one of my biggest gripes with the book is that the two main characters, Matilda and Vincent, are probably two of the weakest characters in the story, in my opinion. They just felt like they didn't have too much of a personality, especially Matilda. I do get that she is a goddess, so she doesn't have as many like human emotions. But even some of the other gods and goddesses had a bit more flavor to them, I guess. Matilda just was the most plain, in my opinion, and Vincent as well. Like, I also didn't really buy their romance that much. It was a bit of insta love. They were connected through Vincent's dreams as children, and then they like meet each other again as adults. But yeah, again, it was kind of just instant like, oh, because we had this childhood together, I still love you, I guess. But I don't know, I just thought that Iris and Roman from Divine Rivals had a much better romance, even though they were also kind of insta love, but there was just more tension between them. So yeah, this is getting a 4.25, and also the plot just didn't entertain me that much. But the writing was beautiful, and I love the side characters. I really want a spin off with one of the side characters, Bade. He was my favourite character in the whole book. So I really want a spin off with him. In terms of what I'm now going to be reading, I actually started a book. I was tidying my room today for like a solid hour, and I thought I may as well listen to an audiobook while I'm doing this, because may as well kill two birds with one stone. And the book I chose is actually on my October TBR, and that is Wuthering Heights. This is one I definitely wanted to listen to an audiobook because I struggle a bit with getting into classics because they can be quite slow and wordy at the start. So I find that audiobooks are a good way to like throw yourself into them. And also I did read Jane Eyre through audiobook, so I feel like reading Wuthering Heights would also be suitable for audiobook. And I think I'm about 70-ish pages in. I think I listened to about an hour of the audiobook, or an hour on 3 times speed, which is what I listen to audiobooks on. I know that's kind of crazy, but I like to hear it fast. Like, as soon as it becomes almost incoherent, but I can still understand it, that's the kind of level of speed that I like. But yeah, I am going to listen to more of this over the next few days, and hopefully it won't take me too long because it's only 340 pages-ish, so, and I'm already like 70 pages in, so this definitely shouldn't take too long. The book I'm currently reading physically is The Second Death of Locke, and this is the Illumicrate edition, so you probably don't recognise the cover, and it also is a bit dark in here, which, yeah, you can't really see. This cover is very, very different from the original. I actually don't like this edition. It just doesn't match the idea I built up in my head of this book based on the original cover. But yeah, this is I think it's an adult historical fantasy romance. It's a lady night book basically. There's a lot of lady night books coming out this year, which I'm not complaining about. Where the main character, I think her name's Grey, she is a knight, or I think they call them wells, where I think she's some sort of energy source slash healer for this other warrior knight guy. And I think, yeah, he goes out and battles, and then she like restores him or heals him or like keeps his magic flowing or something like that. I don't know. I've only read one chapter, and the first chapter was very info dumpy. It was literally just tons and tons of information about the war between all these different kingdoms and how one kingdom called Locke was destroyed completely by I don't know if it was one of the other kingdoms that the characters are not from. I'm still trying to remember all the names of the kingdoms and stuff, but basically Locke was the kingdom where all of the wells came from. So like people like Grey, people with magic, they all came from there. So when the kingdom was destroyed, all of the people there were destroyed, and there's no longer any wells being born, essentially. And but one person escaped. It was like one heir to the royal family escaped, and no one knows who he is. So there's a little bit of mystery as well, but people have been really hyping this one up. So this was like one of my most anticipated releases as well. I didn't love the writing style from the first chapter. I thought it'd be a lot more like historical or medieval sounding, but it's kind of reading like a typical romantasy at the moment. And also it was just a lot of info dumping, so hopefully once I get into it and get into the plot, it will like pick up a bit. I also think I'm going to choose a third book to read because I kind of want to read a short story collection on top of The Second Death of Locke, because that book is really long. It's like over 400 pages, and I'm scared it's going to take me like 3 weeks like Wild Reverence did. So I feel like I want another book to read alongside it. So I think a short story collection would be a good choice, so I can read maybe 1 or 2 stories a day and get through it in maybe a few days or so, and just read it alongside The Second Death of Locke. So I'm going to go to my TBR cart and see what short story collections I have. I know for sure I have one, so if it's just that one, I'll have to choose that one, but I'll take you with me. Move to my TBR cart and I'm having a look, and I don't even see any short story collections here. I don't think any of these are. No, they're not, so I'm going to have to check around the back. Yes, it's double-sided. I have that many books on my TBR. It's bad. So I found it, and yeah, it is in fact the only short story collection I have. This is 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart, and it is, I think it's like folk tales about animals, and like just different mythology. And I actually have another book by this author as well, which I haven't read yet either. So if I like this, then maybe that will encourage me to pick the other book up as well. But I'm going to check how long these stories are and then decide how many I want to read tonight. So I actually have a haul to give. I went into Glasgow today and then went to Waterstones. What's new? And I also had some ramen for lunch as well. I actually went into Glasgow for a completely different reason, and then I never ended up doing the thing that I wanted to do because it was going to be a 25-minute walk to get there both ways, so like nearly an hour walk. And I just ended up not being bothered, so I just went shopping instead. I got something from Waterstones, which was not a book, and then I got some things. There's a new like Asian supermarket that's opened up, or it's not a supermarket, it's a convenience store that's opened up kind of near the Waterstones that I go to, and I got a couple things from there as well. And then I also just had a package delivered which may or may not contain a book, so I'm going to open that now. First is what I got from Waterstones, which is a new jigsaw puzzle. It's 1,000 pieces, but I just completed the Taylor Swift one, which is 1,000 pieces, and I did manage that fine. But this one is like an autumnal witchy one. Yeah, it's 1,000 pieces, says a witchcraft. They also had like a fairy one, but I thought that was maybe more springtime. So I decided to get the witchcraft one because this is going to be a cozy autumnal October reading vlog. So I thought like a cozy witchy puzzle would be a good thing to do, and I think I might do a bit of this maybe right now while I listen to Wuthering Heights, because I listened to a good chunk of that last night while I was editing some pictures for my Bookstagram. So yeah, I'm going to continue with that, and then I'm going to start this. Next I'm going to do the book that just arrived, which I'm really excited about. This is only part of the order. I ordered another book and one colouring book as well, which are going to arrive on Sunday. Today's Friday, so we'll see if they arrive in time. I'm so excited about this one. I did not realise this cover was going to be this texture, but this is Lost Gods by Brom. Sorry, you can see the reflection, it's very plasticky and shiny. But I've read another book by this author, Slowfoot, and I really enjoyed that, and people prefer this book, and I loved Slowfoot, so I think I'm going to love this one too. I think it's about a man who has to like journey into hell to save his wife, and I was planning to read Catabasis by R.F. Kuang soon, which is about two university students who have to travel to hell to save their university professor. So I think that's kind of funny, like if I read them both this month, that's 2 books about people travelling to hell to save people. And then finally the snacks that I picked up. I got matcha pocky. I really like matcha flavoured chocolate and biscuits, so I saw these right at the front door and picked them up. I also got a ramune soda, which I've tried before. I've tried the regular and I've also tried the lychee one, and I really like the lychee one. But this one is yogurt flavoured. I don't know what that means. I have a feeling it's going to taste like a cream soda. Like it's going to be creamy, but not actually taste like yogurt. Last thing I got was just this can of strawberry soda. I went into the store really thirsty, like I really needed a drink of water, so that's why I gravitated towards the drinks fridge. Even though I wasn't going to drink these in the moment, I was just so thirsty that I just, every drink seemed appealing to me, even the yogurt drink, so that's why I picked more drinks up than food. To give a reading update, I actually didn't read any of The 7 Deaths of Locke in Waterstones. I just couldn't be bothered whipping out my like giant hardback of it. It's also the Illumicrate edition, so it's like got designs on the edges and on the hardcover and the end papers, and I feel like that's just a bit extravagant to have in Waterstones. So I ended up picking up my paperback of my short story collection, and I'm now maybe like a third of the way through it. I'm like 93 pages into it and it's only 250 pages, so I could get a good chunk of the way through this tonight as well. It's quite a quick read because it is short stories. I don't know how I feel about it so far. I really like the writing style. The author she has like really good one-liners in it, which just make me stop and go, oh, I really like that. But in terms of the actual short stories, they're really kind of confusing. I'm yet to figure out what they all have in common or how they link to each other. Like, I thought the way the synopsis is laid out, I thought the first short story described about 2 teenage girls working at a sinister roadside attraction called the Eternal Staircase explore its secrets. I thought for some reason that was like the main story, and then like for some reason them exploring this staircase leads them to all of these like other short stories, like they somehow connected. And then I read the first story about the 2 girls and the tourist attraction and really liked that one. That's my favourite one so far. And then I got to the next one and I was like, wait, how does this relate back to that first short story? And then I realised it didn't, and the first story was never going to come back into context, and it's just all random. I for some reason thought that maybe like while they're exploring this staircase that they work at, where it basically goes down to hell, I think, like people don't really know where it ends up. It just, no one's ever been that far down, or like it goes into like the other side of the world or something, so they decide to go further than anyone's ever went before. So I just assumed in my head that they were going to like meet people or creatures on the way, and that's how they get these short stories. But no, it's just completely random. Like, we just left that first story back in the first story, it's not come up again. So I'm trying to figure out how all these connect, because some of them are just really nonsensical. I'm not hating it, but it's probably going to sit at a 3. I really like the writing, that's my main thing. But yeah, I just struggle with short story collections, but it's making me more confident about picking up the author's other book. I think it's called Thistlefoot, because I really like her writing. So maybe when I read a main story and not just short stories, I could get really into that. So yeah, we'll see. Okay, so time for a reading update. I am going to give myself till tonight. So today's Sunday, I think. Yeah, and I'm working the next 2 days and won't be able to read at all. So I'm giving myself tonight to finish all 3 of my current reads. Don't have an update on 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart yet because I haven't read any more, but I have like 150 pages left, and it's a really quick read because it is a short story collection, so I feel like it doesn't drag on for too long on the one thing, so it's easy to like get through. And then Wuthering Heights, I actually only have about 45 minutes left of this on the audiobooks, so I'm just gonna, I think, tidy up a bit and do my jigsaw puzzle as well, and I'll definitely get this done tonight. I'm actually really enjoying this, not as much as Jane Eyre. I feel like people either say you're either a Wuthering Heights person or a Jane Eyre person. I do think I'm leaning towards Jane Eyre just because the story was just slightly more linear. We were following Jane throughout her life, whereas Wuthering Heights, there's like so many different characters. And the main plot line that I thought the book was about, like about Cathy and Heathcliff, isn't really what the book's even about. And it's actually from the perspective of this random guy who is Heathcliff, or Heathcliff is his landlord. And he's finding out about the backstory about Wuthering Heights and the people who have lived there. And yeah, I was just kind of confused for a while. Like, there's a lot of people, and a lot of people who are related to each other, and I'm just going to need to see a family tree because I cannot keep track of everyone in this. But I am really enjoying it, and it's definitely not as wordy as I expected it to be, but maybe that's just because I'm listening to an audiobook, so it's a bit easier for me to comprehend. And finally, my main focus tonight is going to be The Second Death of Locke. I'm actually halfway through this now. It's actually a really quick read, but I'm honestly not loving it, and I'm kind of sad about it because it was one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and I thought maybe it was one of those books that everyone was hyping up before it came out, but then once it comes out it doesn't really live up to people's expectations. But I went and checked the average rating on Goodreads, and it was still well over like 4.15 stars, so I really think I'm on my own with this one. I'm just not enjoying this at all. It's marketed as a new adult fantasy book, but it's reading more like a YA romantasy. It's just not what I had built up in my head I thought it was going to be, which is kind of my fault, but also just the way the book was marketed to me, it just made it feel like it was going to be a bit more grown up and a bit more historical leaning. But I don't know, like the banter between the two characters, or the two main characters, just feels, I know, very typical romantasy, which is not what I was expecting for this book. But yeah, and also it has one of my least favourite kind of plot devices, and that's when the characters have to go on some sort of travelling quest together, which sometimes it does work for me, but a lot of the time I do really get bored when they're just travelling from place to place, which is what this book is turning out to be. But we'll see how it goes. I'm only halfway through, so maybe my opinion will change. Also, I have the second half of my haul now. I actually got a colouring book. It's Spooky Cutie Volume 2. I actually have the first one, and I've almost completed it, but not quite. I got it last September, I think. But now I have a new one to start with all these new images. And I'm also going to be having like a soup and a toasty for dinner, and I feel like it's just going to be a very cozy autumnal night. I've got my autumnal jumper on and my orange earrings. So yeah, I'm just going to have a cozy night in, try and get all of these books read and do some colouring and do my jigsaw as well, and I'll keep you updated. The Second Death of Locke and I didn't like it, so I immediately posted it on Vinted because this is the Illuminate edition, and within literally 90 seconds someone bought it. So do you know what, that's a positive. That's an extra £15 for me. Maybe I should have put it up for more money considering how quickly it was sold, but do you know what, a win is a win. Yeah, this book just wasn't for me. I feel like I would have liked it if I read it maybe a year and a half ago, but I'm just sick of romantasy books at the moment. And this isn't like fully romantasy. There probably is like 60 to 70% fantasy and then the rest is romance, but it just was not what I was expecting when I went into it, which is partially my fault. I really thought it was going to be a bit more medieval and a bit more like fantasy, high fantasy, and I think it was because this is a lady knight book, so like the main character, the FMC, is a knight, and I read another lady knight book recently called The Starving Saints, and that was really like medieval in the writing style. It was very lyrical, it was quite gross at times. I feel like it very, like, the writing represented the time period really well, whereas this book just reads like a YA fantasy romance, and it just wasn't what I was expecting. I would still recommend it if you want to read a YA fantasy romance about a lady knight and the soldier that she has to protect. Like, it was not bad, but it was just not what I was in the mood for. And yeah, I just feel like I've read so many of these types of stories to the point where when I do pick up one, and even if it's good, I just don't like it because I read it so many times before. So yeah, unfortunately I didn't love this, but now I get to pass it on to someone else who might like it more than me and get some money from it. Final update. I actually didn't end up finishing 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart. I actually didn't even continue with it, so I'm still only about 90-ish pages through that. But while I was colouring in, I did finish Wuthering Heights, and I'm going to give this 4 stars. I think I liked it, or maybe 3.75. I liked it just slightly less than Jane Eyre, but I did overall enjoy this. I might read more from the Bronte sisters. I don't really know where to begin or what other ones there are. I've only really heard of these 2, and then there's one that begins with a V and I can't remember like which sister wrote it. I think it might have been Charlotte Bronte. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, overall I really enjoyed this, and I think my next audiobook is going to be Dracula because that's on my physical TBR and on my October TBR, so I think I'm going to do some more colouring in while listening to that. But that is it for this vlog. I feel like it's quite successful. I read 4 books ish, I think three and a bit. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this vlog, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.